Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the CFA Society Nigeria webinar on investment foundation and certificates in ESG. We are glad to move very quickly, about 90 minutes. And just a quick summary of the agenda of today's webinar. We'll have the chairperson of the employer relations give us the opening remarks. That will take about 5 minutes, after which we'll bring in our speaker all the way from the CFA Institute, Klaus Pesler, to delve right into the investment foundation and certificate in ESG. After that, we'll go into the question and answer session. And then right after that, we'll then segue into other information from the society office. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I would like to introduce the chairperson of the Employer Relations Committee. I need to also mention that this webinar is put together by the Employers Relations Committee, and my name is Yusuf Akbino, and I'm the vice chairperson of the Employers Relations Committee. The chairperson is none other than Odiri Ogine. She's currently the managing director of United Capital Asset Management, and she's the one currently sharing the Employers Relations team. Ladies and gentlemen, please make welcome to the virtual space the chairperson of the Employer Relations Committee as she delivers the opening remarks. Odiri.
Thank you very much, Yusuf, and good morning, everyone. I'm really excited that we are able to have this session today. Thank you so much for joining us. I welcome you all to the webinar series hosted by the CFA Society Nigeria. The focus of today's webinar is on the CFA Institute Investment Foundation Certificate, as well as the ESG Investing Certificate. These are two of the newest additions to the CFA Institute's portfolio of certificate programs. You will all agree with me that in the time that we live in, currently, continuous learning is no longer a luxury. You know, in order for us to continue to develop our market, it's a necessity for us to continue to learn and improve ourselves. And the focus of today's session will help us to do that. Most of you are already familiar with the CFA exam. Some people will call it the challenging CFA exam. You know, however, these two certificates that we'll be discussing today will bring fresh perspective to investment professionals at different levels of their career journey. As we go through this session today, the main goal for us really is to provide information about these certificates and also throw more light on how, you know, this certificate is relevant to our markets, relevant to us as investment professionals, as well as the valuable skills that this certificate can add to us as financial market professionals. These certificates also play a vital role in addressing a broader spectrum of responsible and sustainable investing. We all know that the ESG investing, it's a broader theme beyond even our local markets, you know, to discuss even at global levels. Today, we have our resource person from the CFA Institute, no other person than Klaus Pesler, CFA himself. I will just take us through his bio, and you will see that he's the right person actually to take us through this session today. Klaus is currently the head of partnership and client solutions for the EMEA region at the CFA Institute. He joined the Institute in June 2021, and since then has led the team that is managing the CFA Institute society relations, as well as institutional relationships with financial services firms across Europe, the Middle East, as well as Africa. He is currently a regular speaker on ESG and sustainable investing, as well as portfolio management, derivative, and currency strategies. Klaus is a CFA charter holder. He also has multiple certifications from the CFA Institute, including, you know, one of the ones we'll be discussing today, the CFA Institute certificate in ESG investing, as well as the ACCA course in climate finance. To a large extent, you cannot be talking to us about this or even leading the program portfolio without even having to experience writing the exam. So I think he's the best person to take us through this session. He has extensive experience also in portfolio management as well as product development for institutional equity, multi-asset and currency portfolios, as well as derivative strategies in both listed and OTC markets. Once again, I really want to appreciate everyone for joining this webinar. I promise you it's going to be enriching as well as value adding, and we hope that you're able to benefit from it at the end of the day. I will hand over now to the moderator because we really need to dive into, to get, this information that we need. So I'll hand over to the moderator, Yusuf Akpena, who will share some housekeeping rules, and then we'll have Klaus take the floor. So over to you, Yusuf, and thank you very much, everyone, for joining us today.
Thank you very kindly, Madam Chairperson of the Employers Relations. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll dive straight into the session now, but before then, I would like to inform you that if you have questions during the session, please ensure you make use of the Q&A button. Klaus will definitely address some of those questions. Then after the session, we'll give you opportunity to also most likely enable your audio or video to be able to ask direct questions. Ladies and gentlemen, sit back and enjoy today's session. I will now bring on board the facilitator, the speaker for today's session, Klaus Bisler.
Thank you very much, Yusuf, and thank you, Odiri, for that lovely introduction. And I greatly appreciate the chance to speak with you all today on the various programs. We're going to focus today on the Investment Foundations program, which has been recently released, or I should say re-released, because of its popularity. We've had the program in the past, but we've made incredible improvements for today's market. And then the ESG, the certificate in ESG investing, which is also becoming increasingly popular. At the end, I'll go through some of the other programs very briefly to give you an idea of other educational opportunities at CFA Institute, including some of the very, very positive and exciting changes we have made to the CFA program. So with that, I'm going to start. Hopefully you can all see my screen now, but just a very brief high level, although we got it very well in the video earlier, just some very quick points on the CFA Institute for those that are not as familiar with it. The CFA Institute is a global organization designed to promote ethics, education, and professional ethics. Again, as we say, for the ultimate benefit of society, we want to bring up the nature, the ethics, and the standards in financial and asset management throughout the world, and that's a big part of our mission. Part of that is being able to provide certifications and programs to help education on all levels of those in and surrounding the investment and financial markets. But we also have a huge advocacy program designed to help financial markets work ethically when we work with regulators, exchanges, and other influential governments and businesses throughout the financial community. Our thought and our strategy is, again, to develop future professionals through our various programs, the CFA Charter being the gold standard of financial education in fields such as medicine, accounting, law. There are certified boards and certified programs that one has to do to be certified to do that work. For all intents and purposes, the CFA Institute and CFA Charter does that for the financial investment industry. But equally, we want to have people be educated in specific aspects of financial investment and right from the start, which we'll talk about the investment foundations, to help bring up the knowledge from beginning to end of their financial exposure. We want to deliver member value for those that have joined the CFA community globally, both as individuals and the community as a whole. And as I said, part of our mission is to build that market integrity wherever we have influence. With that, I'm going to talk about right now the Investment Foundations Certificate. The Investment Foundations Certificate has gone through various forms over the last years since it was started. But recently, we have revamped the program and really changed the focus, focusing very, very heavily on practical knowledge in the investment and asset management community, but really to give that broader introduction to those either new to the industry or those that just want to learn more as more of an introduction to finance, banking, anything having to do with the greater banking, finance, and investment community. The Foundation Certificate is an online program that delivers the overview of anything around finance banking. It goes into details on things such as how is money being managed? What are the institutions? What's the role of exchanges? We'll go into a little bit more detail around that, but it's designed in a way to really be a learning journey rather than purely a exam guide meant to test your knowledge. The idea is that you complete all the different modules in the program and then have a final assessment to ensure you have that knowledge. This is being recognized throughout the world and throughout the investment and finance community that a lot of firms throughout the world, financial firms, are having all of their new entrants, even interns, go through the program. And it has that mark of CFA Institute, which is a demonstration of the quality of that. The important aspect of it is that it's not specifically for those that are going to be in, say, asset management or portfolio management analyst type roles. It's for everybody that wants to begin their career in these roles, but equally those that are working or have some aspect of these type of roles or know people in their firms that have these type of roles and want to understand more about how the asset management and financial community works. There are really 6 levels around this and 6 modules and programs. And the topics covered you can see hopefully on your screen now. It begins with an industry overview. What are the organizations in our greater financial community? What are the roles, whether they are marketing, IT, sales, portfolio management, etc. And then beginning to focus on the aspect of fintech in finance, which is increasingly becoming a larger aspect. We go specifically more detailed into the functioning of various markets, how security markets trading venues work, the FX market, over-the-counter market versus the listed stock exchange terms you may have heard, but how even stock exchanges even work, what different transactions are, settlement periods, investment vehicles, be that derivatives, be that currencies, be that physical securities, and even things like banking transactions. So it's introductory, but it goes deep into detail on all these different aspects. We go into investment instruments that we are hearing in the markets today. Each such standard things such as equity, fixed income, bonds, but also more into that, more peripheral instruments, currency, commodities, alternative asset classes, things such as hedge funds or property that you may have heard of. And then, of course, things, newer aspects such as cryptocurrencies that are becoming more and more in the press and in the forefront of investors' minds. We look at the tools deriving how investment analysis in the financial community works, both micro and macroeconomics, how trade is affected by these aspects on a global standpoint, and then how all these aspects are going into the tools around doing finance and investment, financial statement analysis, etc. We look at roles around serving our clients, background on different types of investors, whether they are professional investors, whether they're individual investors like many of us will have with savings accounts, with pension assets, etc., or even just using the financial community to try to earn some return on an individual basis. Well, we look at important aspects such as the risk management around investments, the importance of things such as diversity, looking deeper not only into a potential return stream, but what risk do I have to undertake to try to gain that return stream? And then how do I evaluate my investments at the end? Very, very critical aspects, especially in our time of social media, in our time of news and our time of different pundits telling us about different exciting ways of investing and using our money to make sure we understand that there is no free lunch in investments. There is some risk involved. How do we manage that to serve our needs? And then, of course, serving the greater good, which is a huge aspect of not only the market, but the CFA Institute, trying to do good in the financial community and using the financial community to make a positive impact. Things such as ESG, which we'll be talking about a little bit more, a major impact on the world and a major investment topic, but things such as DEI, diversity and inclusion, and how we can incorporate that into what we do. And of course, a great deal on ethics, ethics being a key part of the financial and investment community. We still hear breaches from time to time, so having a deep understanding of how ethics affect us is key. This role, as I said, this certificate, as I said, is for various roles, not just financial analysis and portfolio managers, rather any role in a financial firm or background, human resources, IT, etc., those that are dealing with other staff or just want to understand more about what our firms do when it comes to the financial community. But equally, even those individual people that are going to have to be spending more time managing their own investments and managing their own money, it's important to get a lot of this background and understand how the financial markets work. This course is 6 courses, as I mentioned earlier. It's generally suggested 10 to 12 hours of learning per each of these courses, 60 to 90 hours of total study time, depending on one's background. It's self-paced. It's an online program with a lot of individual modules, videos, interactive elements to really help that learning journey. And once you register, you do have 12 months to finish, so you can do it at your own pace. And in the end, there's a final assessment. For even that, you get 2 chances to take the assessment, but equally, it is designed to be a learning journey guiding you to success. And then you get that Investment Foundation certificate, where we encourage everybody to put that on their LinkedIn profile, on their CVs, on their social media, because it is recognized, and especially it has that CFA recognized brand that a lot of employers and other industry contacts would be looking for. So I'm going to turn now a little bit to the certificate in CFA, certificate in ESG Investing, which is a little bit more of an in-depth program and certificate looking at ESG specifically. And then we'll talk about some other programs, and then I'm happy to take further questions. Now, why is ESG even a topic? Why do we keep talking about it and hearing about it? As you see on the right side of this graphic that's in front of you, in a poll done in 2022 in our Enhancing Investors Trust research, we see that 100%, so every one of the institutional investors, institutional being defined as those that manage money professionally, be it for a pension fund or an asset manager, 100% of these have some interest in ESG as an investment topic. And 77%, so a huge amount of retail investors, that is individual investors that are managing their funds, have an interest in ESG. So it's a topic that's here. It's a topic that's here to stay, but equally it's a topic that is ever changing and can be quite complicated. So having an understanding and education around ESG is a critical aspect to financial knowledge. Now, this certificate, again, is designed for quite a wide audience, not just for portfolio managers and investment analysts and strategists, but also, again, those that may be part of a financial firm or an asset management firm that need to know more about this important topic because they're having conversations with, say, clients or other stakeholders that have a knowledge of that. In fact, we have found that the vast majority, approximately 60% of those taking this certificate are those in client-facing roles because they need to be speaking that same language and understand those ES and G needs of the underlying clients. And this certificate is a fantastic way to get on that same understanding, that same wavelength, and also to demonstrate both to our firms and the wider community that we have a knowledge around ES and G. This again is a self-paced program, as are all the programs at the CFA Institute. The recommended study time for this one is a little bit higher than the previous one, 100 to 130 hours on average. And this, again, is going to depend on your background. If somebody has some investment knowledge and background, they probably will need a little bit less time. Or similar, if somebody has a lot of ESG background, not necessarily in finance, they will need a little bit less time. But for those that don't have either of those, you're going to need to spend some more time getting some of that background. But it is definitely very doable because there are no prerequisites or formal entry requirements. It does help to have some background in investment knowledge. Equally, having gone through the investment foundations program could set you up very, very well for the certificate of ESG investing. This is a one-time exam. So this one, unlike the investment foundations, is a one-time exam that you set up. And it's a 2-hour, 20-minute, 100-question multiple choice exam that one can be taken at a designated test center or at home or in the office from your own computer. So it is very flexible. You do not have to choose your testing date right when you register. You can give yourself some time to study and then choose a testing date that works for you, again, either at home or at a test center. It has become incredibly popular since the CFA Society of the UK launched the program in 2019. There's been over 34,000 people that have gone through this program. The CFA Institute took this over from the CFA Society of the UK a couple of years ago to broaden its outreach, seeing how popular it was, and to add more of a global international approach to the curriculum as well. So it's become exceedingly popular. A lot of firms, especially those firms that are focusing on sustainability in their ways of doing business, are making this mandatory for many roles in the firms. But equally, those that are looking to potentially join the asset management community or a sustainable firm are going through this program to help boost their profile, boost their CV, and boost their knowledge of ESG. I won't go into hyper detail on all of this. I'll allow you to read it, but equally our website or me personally, you can contact me to get more detail on this. But the program itself is 9 chapters, and it goes through various topics, introducing ESG as a concept and the marketplace itself for it, then going into individual details on the ESG, environment, social, and governance aspect, and what that means to us. And then more importantly, as you can see by the number of questions, the major focus is on ESG valuation, integration, analysis, and portfolio management. So putting these topics that we have learned earlier in the program into play. And a lot of the questions around the exam are not simple, straightforward memorization. Rather, they are knowing what we have learned around ESG. How do I incorporate that into a portfolio management or security analysis aspect of it? And then, of course, in the end, portfolio analytics and client reporting are also an important aspect because especially a lot of these aspects are quite regulated in our markets today. As I mentioned, this is a very, very popular certificate, and many firms are either requiring or strongly encouraging their employees or new entrants to their firm to go through this program. On the right side of this graphic, you can see some of the larger global firms that have adopted this and publicly stated their support for the programs, including asset managers, consultants, and other asset owners that are really critically focusing on sustainability and publicly support the program. So this is just a list that is ever increasing and ever changing, but more and more the global financial community is supporting ESG education. Now, I'll briefly go into some of the other courses that we have, and then I will stop to make sure we have plenty of time for thoughts and questions around this. Of course, the CFA program, which is the flagship gold standard of investment education, we've had some significant changes recently. The largest number of changes that we have had in the history of the CFA Institute, designed to make it more appropriate for today's investment community and more job focused. The important aspect around all of what we do at CFA Institute, investment foundations, ESG, and other programs we have, is a reminder that it's designed by investment participants and practitioners for investment practitioners. So it's a real practical approach and moving away from a purely academic. Academic is important to understand concepts, have that basic knowledge, but how do I put this into play? And increasingly, the investment foundations, the certificate ESG investing, and the CFA charter are moving more and more towards these practical aspects. The CFA brand and the CFA name, and especially the CFA charter, as mentioned in the videos you have saw at the beginning, give you that global passport. Unlike certain university potentially programs or other local education programs, the CFA really provides that global passport. So whether somebody is in Nigeria, South Africa, Abu Dhabi, or Hong Kong, they recognize that CFA charter, they recognize that CFA brand, and it can really help position you as having that global education. As you know, the CFA is 3 levels. There's a foundational level 1, which is a very challenging one, but is broader in its approach to all of the investment tools, introducing different concepts, quantitative analysis, financial reporting, and investment instruments. The level 2 goes deeper into analysis on specific asset classes. And then the level 3 really focuses on portfolio analytics and portfolio management. I'll come more onto level 3 shortly. The important aspect, by the way, if you see in the middle of all these little circles, is that ethical component. And 20% of each of the curriculum and each of the exam is on ethics. So one has to pass all 3 levels of the exam, do 4,000 hours of appropriate professional work experience, get some references, and then you can join the greater community of being a proud CFA charter holder. Very briefly, some of the things that have changed in the CFA program over this year and the next couple of years are the program eligibility has changed to allow those in their 3rd year of university education to begin taking that program and prepare them for their future career. We have more practical skills modules in starting now in level 1, but all the levels to go into actually day-to-day working on either Python or data, or doing financial statement analysis on Excel to give you that practical work experience. The curriculum is being focused more where there are some pre-readings that have been taken out of the curriculum and the exam around economics and quantitative analysis, knowing a lot of people will have that background, and focusing on new investment topics, ESG, crypto, AI, etc. And then there will be specialized pathways coming for level 3, which I'll go into very, very shortly. I'm going to just skip very briefly in the interest of time. Now, this focused curriculum, why would we do that? As we found out over time that there's a lot of material that people need to know, similar to investment foundations and ESG, that we want to focus that education. So some of the material has come out of the exam, quant, economics, financial statement analysis. Now, these readings are available for those that don't have that background, but they won't necessarily be tested, knowing that underlying knowledge should be there. Equally, these practical skills modules, as I've mentioned, at level 1, we have this financial modeling, Python programming, which is increasingly becoming an important aspect based on the background we have heard from the financial community and specific financial firms we have spoken with. And data and working on Python is increasingly an aspect. So you can choose between these. Now, these again aren't tested, but you have to be completing these in order to get your results. And level 2, similarly, Python continues, but there's also more analysis skills that are coming. So practical working modules that have to be completed. On level 3, the biggest change is that one can choose a bit of a specialization on the level 3. Now, 70% of the material and readings is the same throughout which path, but it allows you to spend 30% of your studies and of your exam choosing between the standard portfolio management, which has always been there, or focus more on private markets or private wealth, depending on what path you may think your career is going down. Each path is equally as difficult and equally as challenging, but again, you can choose a little bit more specialization should you need. In a few more minutes, just the next few more minutes, I'm going very briefly into some of the other programs we have, and then I will stop and open it up for any questions. So further to the ESG certificate, and another course I've taken, as mentioned earlier, is a climate finance course, and this is done in concert with the ACCA, the accounting board, and it looks at climate finance from an accounting standpoint and how to do things such as carbon pricing. How do I incorporate climate policies, disclosures from a financial aspect and account for them in sustainable climate finance part of the business? So it's a great program. Again, this one also is a learning journey rather than a study for a few months and take a final exam. It's designed to help you learn, and you have multiple attempts to take the final assessment. So it goes into introduction of climate change and finance, policies and governance around that, different regulations, carbon pricing, which is an important aspect, and how to account for that, and then different tools for integrating mathematically climate risk into analysis and valuation, and then different tools on portfolio construction. Equally, we have a couple of new exciting programs, one focusing more on that data science. I had mentioned Python before as an aspect in the CFA program. We have now a program on data science itself, where it goes into details and giving you practical knowledge and bridging the gap between finance and data. So it's designed for those that may have data background and want more finance, or those with financial background that need to know more about how data works. Here's just some brief explanations about these learning outcomes, but it talks a lot about Python programming. You get some practical aspects, machine learning, AI, natural language, and how these can work to help promote your knowledge on how to incorporate data into financial analysis. I'll leave this up very briefly. And again, this is a five separate courses around data that one can take individually, but for the whole data science certificate, one gets all these detailed courses, natural language, mitigating biases, data and statistics, etc. And then there is a final assessment to one that gets a certificate that you can promote against that you have completed data science. And finally, our newest program is around private markets and alternatives. Again, something that's introduced in both investment foundations and the CFA program, but it goes into a lot more detail on alternatives. So the idea is for those that are looking more into the alternatives and private markets, hedge funds, alternative asset managers, to give them more of that background and the tools and techniques, because it is quite a different aspect than your standard asset classes. So I'll leave this slide up very briefly on going over the different courses in the alternative aspect and part of this certificate. But again, this one also is one of these learning journeys. So the way I see it, if those are looking for a specific certificate, you have investment foundations, you have ESG to give you that broad knowledge, and of course the CFA charter, and then multiple courses where we go into to give you more of that specialized knowledge. So a long way of helping people to build up that knowledge, to demonstrate to the wider community your knowledge and experience, and hopefully help those in their career path. So with that, I will be quiet now and open it up for any questions anyone may have on any of the material that I've gone through today.
All right. Thank you very kindly, Klaus Pesler, for that brilliant presentation. I particularly like the fact that you were able to break it down for our audience. And you also mentioned the fact that there are other certificates, apart from the CFA certification. There are so many other programs that employers can pretty much take advantage of and then use it to further deepen and develop the competency of their employees. So I will start with a question before I go into the Q&A and the chat box. So the question is, how can, because here we have a couple of employers, in fact, the bulk of the attendees are decision makers and employers. So how can they integrate some of these certificates into their training programs for their employees? I would like you to speak more on that for some of them who are thinking of sort of integrating some of these certificates into their training program, maybe annual employee training program. How can they seamlessly do that? I would like you to speak on that.
Of course. I think the main one, and something that has come into a lot of demand and we have developed with the investment foundations program especially, because In investment foundations, it's important to get that deep understanding. Now, why I'm saying that is CFA charter, for example, are usually those that have had some work experience around investments and finance and are used to that aspect and the terminology, versus investment foundations is more as an introductory level for those that may not have that knowledge. So what we have designed alongside the investment foundation, should a firm want to engage with us on that, we have what we call a training or a teaching path, which is really a slide deck and knowledge base where we provide additional knowledge talking points for a firm that if they want to do individual training for their employees, it goes through all of the individual modules on the investment foundations and becomes a training and teaching guide that they can present to them. I have spoken to several investment firms throughout the world, and they have internal in-house training for all new employees that it's a, say, once a week or once every couple of weeks, they do a couple hour sessions where they have the individual employees of the firm do training for these not only newer employees, but those not necessarily in investment roles. And they use the training pack that we provide to help do these teaching seminars. So it's a great way to do that. Equally, with a lot of our other programs, we at the CFA Institute, and especially the CFA Society of Nigeria, have a lot of expertise and may be able to do certain webinars and topics on different aspects of finance that may be useful for a firm. One example of that is in the course of the last year or so, for both the Nigerian Society and the South African Society in particular, I have done webinars on ESG and investing, derivatives, how a firm or a regulator can incorporate these things. So we provide a lot of the knowledge as well as part of our overall research and advocacy mission.
Brilliant, brilliant. Thank you, Klaus. So I will take the two questions that we have in both the Q&A and the chat box, after which we can then give opportunity for our attendees to be able to also enable their microphone and speak to you directly. So the first question is with regards to the cost of the investment foundation. I think there are two questions that are quite related. One has to do with what is the cost of the investment foundation program, and the second one has to do with what are the cost implications of this cost in order for us to align to the training calendar programs for various organizations. So do you want to take that quickly?
Yes, the investment foundations program is, and I think it may have changed, but I think it's approximately $295 US, if I remember correctly. Let me verify that while we're speaking. So it is an entry level one, and it is designed to be a little bit more on the lower cost side for investment professionals, because we know it is more of an entry level. Now, obviously, the CFA charter is a lot more expensive. It's a more extensive program, but that is why this one, we tried to design it at a price point to be very eligible for a lot of people to be able to go through this program. I'm sorry, what was I'm sorry, it's $350. So I was slightly off. It's $350 US for the program. $350 US. So I'm sorry, what was the second question, Yusuf?
Okay, I think the second question is still related to cost across some of the courses, the other courses. Somebody is asking that in the event that they want to sort of align the courses into their training program, what cost implication do they need to consider in doing that? So it's still around.
Yeah, so some of the other programs, it varies slightly, but especially things such as the certificate in ESG investing is $795. Now, again, with these costs, once that is done, you get all of the reading material, you get access to what we call the learning ecosystem, which is an online guide to help guide the learner through the journey. And it provides various resources. It can help you determine your study progress, and you get some mock exams to help you guide that. So it's an all-in cost. If you want written books, because with these programs, it's either online or PDF versions of the material, If you want written books, that's a separate cost, most of which are done through Amazon. But equally with this cost, the $795 for ESG and the CFA one, which is more, you get all of the material, all the testing material and access to the study program and the exam for that. The other programs, the data science, the ACCA one are all around a similar price point, anywhere from approximately £500 to about the data science all in, all 5 courses, and the final is about £1,500 for the, or sorry, dollars, not pounds. I live in the UK, apologies, is around that price point. That's all listed on our website, but generally that's the price point one would be looking for. Yeah.
Thank you, Klaus. I think related to that question around cost is that someone also asked that how can one register for the program? I think you've pretty much mentioned all of that, but you may want to just say a thing or two to further reinforce what you've mentioned before.
Sure.
It's the other one, the cost of the climate change certificate. So you have to speak to that as well. Thank you.
Sure, no problem. Registering is very, very simple. And really just go on either the local society, CFA Society of Nigeria website, or the website of the CFA Institute. And under the programs, it's a very simple way to register. It gives you some background information on it. And then you simply click and you put in some data to become part of the system at CFA Institute. You register, and then you can choose which program. Once you register and the invoice is paid, you'll have immediate access to all of the programs. You can begin, again, as I mentioned, scheduling your exam at a time that you wish, right from the start, or you can kind of delay that. With the courses, the final assessment is done when you have gone through all the modules. But again, to register, it's super simple. Go onto the Society website or the CFA Institute website, and it's a very easy guide to go through that. The climate and investing course is $510 starting September this year for that CFA climate investing course.
All right. Thank you for those clarifications. May I just encourage our attendees to also take advantage of the information posted on the chat box. So we have further information with regards to Investment Foundation. You can click the link to know more, and information around the cost has also been posted by Kingston. So I will encourage you to also utilize those pieces of information being shared there. So I will now yield the floor. If we have any further questions, we can. Okay, so I have a question from an anonymous attendee, and the question goes thus: what is the pass rate for the exam?
Depends on the exam. So again, a lot of the ones, Investment Foundations and the other courses, are designed to be a learning journey and are really designed to get you through them, and just as a final assessment to test your knowledge. So the pass rate on those is incredibly high. The certificate in ESG investing over the last few years, the pass rate has been approximately 70%. So although it is challenging, the material you read, and if you do spend enough of the hours on it, the 100 to 130 recommended hours, you have a pretty good chance of passing that. Again, 70% pass rate generally. There are mock exams available, and there are end of chapter assessments to help guide you through that. CFA is a little bit of a different beast, as we all know. The pass rates traditionally, I think the level 1 pass rates just came out now. For the recent one, is around 38%. Level 2 is 44%, and level 3 tends to be around the 55%. So it is designed, it is very challenging, but that has been the traditional numbers. But the other programs are not, are a bit of a higher pass rate.
Thank you, Klaus. So I will take 2 questions, and you can respond to both at the same time. The first one is that, are there specific job role for CFA Institute ESG certificates, and what are the required experience needed to earn the certificates aside writing the exams? And the second one has to do with whether there are opportunity for scholarship on the investment foundation certificates. Those are the two questions. You can take both.
Sure. Okay, so I'll take those as they come. I'll start with the ones that are different roles on ESG. The advantage with the ESG certificate is it's open to various roles, and it's actually, although initially designed for those in an investment function, portfolio management analysis, has really broadened, and it does give you that broad knowledge of the ESG community and the ESG market. Now, there are no mathematics on the exam. It's looking at the concepts and putting the concepts into practice. So the different roles that it's designed for, mostly, as I mentioned, about 60% of those taking the exam are those on the client service side of it, making sure they have that background understanding to be able to speak with clients and the greater community. But it's also very appropriate for roles in IT, administration roles, marketing, compliance type roles that want to understand more about and be on the same language of those that are doing the investment functions or those other roles in the firm. So it's an important aspect. It gives you that background understanding, and the type of roles are very, very open. It doesn't just have to be an asset management firm that specializes in ESG, because equally we're finding all aspects of the financial markets, be it governments, be it market exchanges, be it asset owners and pension funds, or banks as a whole, are incorporating ESG into how they do their work. And as I like to say in some of my other presentations, soon there will no longer be an ESG investing. It will just be investing, and ESG is a standard part of that. So it's very important to have that specialized knowledge in an increasingly strong aspect of investment management. The experience question, what type of experience do you need? The only thing I would suggest for the investment foundations, you really don't have to have any background whatsoever in investment finance. It does give you and provides you that knowledge. For ESG, it's important to have at least some understanding of how investments and asset management financial community works, just to help guide you through the materials. Now, it's not a prerequisite, and you may have to do a lot of additional studying if you don't have that background, but you don't have to have ESG or sustainable background to go through that program. Neither do you really with the other courses, other than the CFA charter, where there are prerequisites around some university education. And it's very important to have some sort of financial understanding and background to do the CFA charter. But the others don't necessarily have a massive experience required, again, other than the ESG, where it's important to have some investment background. And I'm sorry, Yusuf, I didn't read, what was the third part of that question?
I think you've answered the two questions.
Okay.
So the next one will just be, I think you've also answered this. Is there a specific time of the year to register for the investment foundation course, or can we register at any time and go through the course for the next 12 months? Maybe you want to speak to timelines here.
Yes, absolutely. So with all of the courses, let me take aside ESG and CFA for the moment, but for all of the courses, there is no specific timeline or deadline. As soon as you sign up, you have access to all the materials. You can study at your own pace. The only deadline is you have 12 months to complete the whole program, which should be more than enough time. So you can do it at your own pace and then take the final assessment when you are ready. There's no specific timeline for it. For the ESG certificate in ESG investing, again, you have, this one's a little bit different in that you have a set time, you have 6 months to go through the program, but you do have to actually set your exam time, because that exam is proctored either at an exam center or, as we mentioned, you can do that online or at home, but you have to set a specific time after a couple months, because you need to have a proctor matching you. But you do not have to set your exam right when you register for the certificate of ESG investing. Some people find that useful, that it gives them that discipline. I register, I'm going to set my exam time in, say, 4 months' time to guide me in my studies. Or equally, the way I did it is I registered, studied for a couple months, and thought, okay, now I think I'm ready to take the exam. And then I schedule my exam then and prepare for it. So it is quite flexible. But again, that's a certificate in ESG investing. CFA charter is a couple set times during the year. But the other courses, investment foundations, you can do it at your own pace whenever you need to.
All right, Klaus, thank you very kindly. I think we have about 8 minutes to the end of this session. I will give opportunity to our attendees who want to unmute their microphone and ask you questions directly. So the floor is open. Please signify if you want to speak so that we can recognize you. Aside from that, we don't have any other question in the chat box or in the Q&A. Please, ladies and gentlemen. All right.
I just saw a question come through, if I'm reading correctly, and it says, I understand some people have registered, written, passed, and gotten their badge before the exams when it was free and has been monetized and paid for. What happens to their badges? In that sense, you can still promote that you have taken it before. It doesn't change on that one. We're not restricting those badges. Just know that the new program, and I encourage those to potentially do it, gives you a lot more in-depth recent knowledge. So it's not stopping you from going through it again. But no, your previous badges and what you can put on your CV, that does not change. One other question that came through, will the ESG certificate be hard copy delivered to participants? No, when you register, all of the programs is done PDF soft copy. The hard copy of the material can be purchased separately. I believe you have to go on Amazon to do that. There may be other ways to do it. From my understanding, it is through Amazon to get a hard copy. Depends on how useful you find that, but you do get the entire exam material delivered to you via PDF. And then, as we said, we have this online learning ecosystem that has a lot of the learning, the material, and a guide to get you through it as well. So it is a separate way of getting, if you need a hard copy of the written material.
Thank you, Klaus. I think we don't have further questions. I would just use this moment to say a very big thank you for a brilliantly delivered session on investment foundation and certificate in ESG. And I also particularly like the fact that you shed more light on other available certificates that the attendees can also take advantage of within the CFA Institute. Thank you very kindly. I will just encourage you to still stay around while I segue very quickly into the next session. In case we have further questions, we will let you know. Okay, this particular question doesn't relate to you, so I think the Society Office will address that. So, ladies and gentlemen, please, you may want to appreciate Klaus Pesler for a brilliant job he has done. Thank you very kindly. So we'll let you know if we have further questions within the chat box. So I will now invite the Society Office. Specifically, I'm going to invite Yemi Ajagun, who is the Executive Director of the CFA Society, to take us through the next session. Yemi, the virtual space is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yusuf. And thank you so very much to Klaus for very insightful presentation. I hope I'm loud and clear. Today's session is principally about other certifications from the stable of CFA institutes. I just want to use this opportunity to apprise attendees that we are so very grateful for attending this session about upcoming CFA Institute Africa Investment Conference. That is scheduled to take place on Wednesday and Thursday, 30th of November 2023 at in Nigeria. It's a collaboration between CFA Institute and CFA societies across Africa, including South Africa, East Africa, and Ghana, with CFA Society Nigeria as the host. And the theme of that conference is the emergence of Africa. I think strategy promises to be very, very
Yemi, I think you had a glitch there.
Okay.
yes, absolutely. Network issues decided to hit dirty hands. So, like I was saying, we're expecting about 1,000 delegates from across Africa, and we would like to invite participants and the firms to these events to participate as sponsors, attendees, to showcase your firms and exhibit your especially during the second day of the conference when we'll be having the be able to interface with the attendees at the event. Additionally, CFA Society Nigeria is also working assiduously with Funds Managers Association, FMAN, and asset management firms to encourage the adoption of CFA Institute Asset Managers Code, a way of signaling a firm's professionalism and integrity in protecting clients' interests. Had a number of webinars in that area, and I would want to encourage you to reach out to the society. We'll be handles in the chat box for any support whatsoever you may need, especially with regards to today's webinar regarding your integrating some of these certifications into your regular trainings or to support employees in registering or anything of that nature, or any inquiry you may be having, you may reach out to us at the society. I would like to use the opportunity on behalf of the board, governors, and members of CFA Society Nigeria to thank all of you that attended today's webinar. Appreciation also goes to the Employer Relations Committee of the Society for organizing this webinar. A thank you. Also goes to Klaus Pesler for always supporting us and society. And also thank you to the executive office team for supporting this event. Thank you very much, everyone. Yusuf, back to you.
Thank you, Yemi. Thank you for your quick remarks and update with regards to the additional program we have at the CFA Society in Nigeria. I think somebody was asking for the details regarding the conference, and the details have been, the conference is going to hold at a hotel and suite, so in Lagos, and the date
We'll definitely be getting across, and some of us would have received our letters by now, but we'll definitely be getting across to each and everyone with more details as to the programs and how the events will go.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado and delaying you further in today's meeting, we want to thank you so much for making our time to attend this session. As Yemi rightly said, we will engage you further with regards to the investment conference coming up in November. I will want you to be a part of the conference because it's a collaboration between a number of CFA societies across Africa, and we're also going to be having a very formidable support from the CFA Institute. And you can see that Klaus was here all the way from the CFA Institute to make this presentation. That shows the level of support we have from the headquarters. Thank you very kindly, Klaus. We appreciate your presence. And we want to bring this meeting to a close now. We'll further engage you, and if you have further questions, we will still be available to respond to them. Thank you so much, everyone. Do enjoy the rest of your day, and bye for now.
Bye. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You've made a decision to aim for a long-term and successful finance career. Taking the Chartered Financial Analyst CFA exam and studying the curriculum is an excellent way to ensure you have a strong knowledge base and top-notch skills. Are you ready to take the bold step to invest in yourself? CFA Society Nigeria is at your disposal, promoting the highest standards of investment practice in Nigeria. As an affiliate of CFA Institute, CFA Society Nigeria seeks to promote the highest standards of investment practice in Nigeria and to provide a vibrant community in which its members and other key players in the investment industry can interact and grow. When you have the CFA charter, you're globally recognized. Take advantage today by writing the CFA exam and joining us at CFA Society Nigeria. For more information, visit us at cfasocietynG.org. CFA Society Nigeria, making finance a force for good.
We are professionals. We are impact-driven. We are CFA Society Nigeria, a member society of the CFA Institute Global Network of Societies. Our mission is to promote the highest standard of practice in the Nigerian financial services industry and provide a vibrant community for our members. The CFA Charter signals the holder's commitment to professional excellence. As thought leaders, we collaborate with stakeholders to ensure adherence to ethical standards, better education for professionals, and to build market integrity. We are the leading voice for advocacy in the finance and investment industry in Nigeria. To partner with us or become our member, visit us at cfasocietynG.org for more details. CFA Society Nigeria, making finance a